here we are, Dr. Jason Johnson. I don't know how long you were there, but in South Africa, but we are now squarely in the last, I guess, maybe quarter of the 180-day playbook for Project 2025. They have been able to succeed at a lot. They haven't succeeded at everything. The courts have been pushing back. The people fighting back has been great. So I don't think they've got the full sweep of victories that they thought they might have at this point. But it's shit is still on fire, and they have really done a good job of implementing and rolling this thing out. And now we're here looking at the budget proposal. As we all know, we are in a continuing resolution space, I guess, which is weird to me because the continuing resolution that we're currently in, as I understand it, brought extra things into it. We didn't continue from where we were in December. It's like continuing resolution kind of in name only. And then we have until September for this budget to be finalized. And this budget is crucial because in addition to cutting just about everything that's left of the social safety net, that's how I would describe it, it also guarantees that there is going to be a permanent tax cut for millionaires and billionaires. I've seen some reporting that, well, the middle class is also going to get a tax cut. Those tax cuts end in 2029, as I understand it. So talk to us about what we are to make about the way racism is shaping finances here in this country and what we can expect from this budget battle.
I'm going to say the same thing now that I said soon after Trump got into office. And I'm not the first person to say this. Roland Martin has talked about this. Other analysts have talked about this. Economists have talked about this. The entire goal of this administration is to defund Black America. That's the goal. They want to defund Black America. It's not just, none of us have an idea. And I don't know if I can say I can't say it's necessarily worse than the apartheid state that we lived in this country up until like the late 70s. Yeah. But I don't think any of us, I know none of us have lived under a time where the federal government was being specifically weaponized to financially disempower Black people.
Right.
Financially disempower Black people. So that starts with eliminating all sorts of government jobs, right? Which is where the Black middle class has been able to grow and expand because of the discrimination within the private sector. Then you have the elimination of grants and the threats against organizations and institutions that provide educational grants and provide educational background and funding and everything else like that. So what you're seeing in this upcoming budget, in these budget battles, is not just a matter of cutting away government services and cutting away security, but also going line by line. There's a great article on Contraband Camp, which was launched by Michael Harriot earlier this year. There are line by line breakdowns of basically any program.
That's literally what we were just talking about right before you came on. Like I went through, he got like 10 points of how this is basically a white nationalist wet dream.
Yeah. So that's what everybody needs to understand, that if you've got grants, if you've got government contracts or anything else like that, if there's anybody Black involved, they're going to try to find a way to snatch your funding. Now, I will argue this just from a purely political standpoint. Part of what makes all of this ridiculous, and the courts have fought back a little bit, is the idea that an incoming administration can renege on budget promises that have already been stated, to me, should already be illegal. Like, this is already committed in the budget. You shouldn't be able to snatch back what's been committed. So a lot of what we see happening now is a matter of our weak institutions not standing up. Because a lot of what Trump is asking to do shouldn't be able to kick in until 2026. If the money was committed in 2024, then it should run this year. Right. The idea that, I could go, the idea that you can have someone say, I'm going to pay for this, but now I'm not going to pay for it because we're under new management makes absolutely no sense. So it shows that our institutions generally don't work. People aren't willing to fight back the way they need to. And the courts are only so powerful because you still got people being snatched out of the country and put into, hidden camps outside the United States of America. And the courts can't do anything about it except say, nanny, nanny, boo, boo, you should stop. Right. So that's what people need to understand. It is a defunding of Black America, which is why I have argued and have been saying for a long time that people who are employed and have the opportunity to remain employed need to be very conscious about where they spend their money. Make sure you are spending your money within our community. Make sure you go to Black Farmer Index and go shop at Black farm places instead of grocery stores. Make sure that if you're doing entertainment, try to find Black outlets or Black ticket sales places. Try to make sure that you're spending your money within community to the best of your ability. If you can find a Black-owned dry cleaner, go to the Black-owned dry cleaner. If you can go to a Black car dealership, go to a Black car dealership. These are the kinds of ways that we can keep ourselves afloat as the federal government is being weaponized against us having any role in the economy whatsoever.
I like your return to that point, because that's something that's firmly within our control. You mentioned Roland Martin, and that there was one episode of Roland Martin when he was on TV1 that I have never been able to let go. And this is like maybe 10, 15 years ago. And he had on the author of Our Black Year, Michelle Alexander, I think is her name. And this was, before internet commerce really took off, and she was talking about their efforts to buy black for an entire year. And one of the things he and Ron Busby, I think it was, I'm pulling names from memory. One of the things that they talked about was the fact at that time there were 1.9 black-owned businesses that were owned by a sole proprietor, meaning they had no employees. It was a black-owned business, and they were making it happen, but just on the strength of their energy as the founder. And then they said that if we black people, who currently spend only 2 pennies out of every dollar with the black-owned business, were to increase our rate of spend from 2 pennies out of every dollar, so I think it was like a dime, something that was like still so ridiculously tiny. I was trying to find what is the infinitesimal? Y'all know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Infinitesimal. Thank you. That's why you're the professor. Infinitesimal. Say it again.
Infinitesimal.
Infinitesimal. It's such a small amount. You get more to the Lord than people are giving to black businesses. And so if we were to increase our rate of spend from 2 pennies to a dime out of every dollar, that would flood those sole proprietorships with enough capital that they could then hire an additional person, which means not just 1.9 million people working, but 1.9 million people times 2. If we were to expand that from a dime to, I don't know, a whole ass quarter, what could we do? And Jason, to me, this is going to be the only option for our success, because if they are successful at defunding Black America, and Black America has spent the past 40, 50 years coming out of integration. I know it was a 60-year effort, but the past 40, 50 years really redefining access to white spaces for employment as our pathway to economic success. It feels to me like we are living through a complete ending of that road and a forced rebuild in real time of a road. You remember those cartoons where like the people were construction workers and they had to lay down a road as the train tracks were coming, and like the train track was coming, it was right there, and you had to lay down the track, lay down the track, hammer, because the train was right there. It feels to me like that traditional pathway to white access and economic sustainability is gone. We're now in the track laying mode.
And look, I'm not saying it's easy, but anything can be habit forming, right? Like, so for example, I was saying this about like Target, right? And I was like, what you're seeing happen with Target is what happens when black people say, I don't want to no more, right? And Target is never going to. I'm revising my timeline because I said I thought they had maybe until the fall, but I think it might already be set. Like Target ain't never gonna get those black dollars back. Period. Like it's done. It's over. People have not. I live down the street from a Target that I used to go to all the time. I just haven't gone. Like literally, the one time I thought about it is I had to buy some socks, and a friend was like, "You ain't going to Target," and I was like, "Oh, that's right." and then I haven't gone since. And the significance of this, in case people wonder how powerful this can be, right? When we pull our dollars out, which is the same things that we put our dollars in, is I always give people the example of Denny's. Ain't a black family gone to Denny's in 30 years. Remember, we used to go to Denny's.
So did.
Denny's was, and all it took, and this is what's key, all it took was about a year. People don't even remember why black folks don't go to Denny's anymore, right? It used to be standard. Yes, there was a lawsuit. There were a couple of lawsuits about discrimination, but a year and a half after that happened, people were just like, I don't know, I just have bad taste in my mouth about Denny's, and we stopped going. And Denny's has never recovered. Never recovered. There used to be Denny's in black communities all the time. If you didn't go to Golden Brown, Denny's is where you went after church.
Yep. You are not lying. That
place has never recovered. So if we can put somebody out of business, if we can have a CEO of a national corporation like Target take a 40% pay cut because we don't show up, then imagine if we take that same money and go online and just order things from a black proprietor. Imagine if we take that same effort and once a month, I'm not saying every week, right? Sometimes you just got quick grocery shopping, got to feed the kids. But if once a month, if your Saturday grocery shopping is to go to blackfarmerindex.com and find a black farm to go to, by the way, you can take the kids, they'll be distracted, they can run around, blah, 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 right? Go spend money on a black farmer. First, it's going to be cheaper. Second, you're going to keep that farmer working. Right? And you're going to keep that resource available. Those are the kinds of things that we can do. And again, we have the money to make it happen. I say this all the time. Send your children to an HBCU. I'm at a wonderful Morgan State University right here in northeastern West, whatever is Baltimore. Send your kids to an HBCU. Why keep giving money to institutions that don't want us there? Why keep sending your children to institutions that keep snatching their scholarships away? We're going to be dealing with this for another 40 years. So stop pretending that little itty bitty decisions that you make now don't have any impact. They will, because they're going to build up over time.
I
And
know that's right.
economics is the first and most critical way that Black people are vulnerable in a white nationalist authoritarian regime, but it's also a place where we're more empowered than we ever have been in the history of this country to keep ourselves afloat.
I love that. I love that. I wish we could keep you longer. I know you got stuff to do and you got places to go, and you just back in the country, so I know you still trying to get your American sea legs back underneath you. Good luck with that.
It's the middle of the afternoon for my body right now. It's been so strange.